Good morning, Steelers Nation. Happy Wednesday. Today on the Huddle, we're going to be doing a segment that we're going to be premiering later on in the season that I'm going to be calling Spygate. And basically, what it is we're going to get to know, we're going to bring on a content creator of the opposing team, and we're going to get to know a little bit more about the opposing team that we're going to be playing that game, and how the Steelers are going to attack them, and how we should expect the Steelers to be attacked. Now, to kind of give a preview of the segment, today we got Kris Hendrix of Who Dat Saints Nation podcast. He's going to be on. He's going to talk a little bit of the Saints. We'll be playing the Saints later, and we're also going to be playing the NFC South. And so he's just going to give us a little bit of an insight on both the Saints and the NFC South and what we're to expect. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget you want to hit that notification button so that way you're notified of all of our content. We do daily segments, weekly lives, and a Friday night Q&A, and then we'll have special guests every now and then. With that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers, and welcome to the Huddle. Kris Hendrix, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Hey, all right, going great this morning. Another great day to talk some football.
I agree, man. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. He's new to the content creation game, so to speak. But Kris Hendrix has been a friend of mine for a very long time. He and I have had many football conversations, and I think you guys will be able to enjoy the next conversation that we have. So this year, the Pittsburgh Steelers play the New Orleans Saints, and it's a bit of a transition year for you guys as well, isn't it? I believe you guys got a new coach. How is Saints Nation feeling about the loss of Sean Payton and the addition of the new coach?
Good question. So I'd say if I'm looking at the temperature of the Saints at this point in time, we're all kind of, for the most part, excited. The announcement that Sean Payton made that he was stepping away took us all by surprise for the most part, right? And so, but we have, Dennis Allen coming in, which pretty much adds to the continuity of the whole situation. And so I think with him, stepping up from being a defensive coordinator into the head coaching role, really kind of, it adds to the continuity, which is what the team focus was all about. And then not really changing up too much, not really bringing a new coach in. Because every time you bring a new coach in, they want to, for the most part, blow everything up. So with us sticking with the continuity, I think really is going to kind of keep us on track. And at the same time, we're pretty excited about it. The temperature of the Saints, for the most part, we're excited to have Dennis Allen in, and excited to have Pete Carmichael as our offensive coordinator that's going to head the offensive side of the ball.
Awesome. And so, are you expecting any major differences in the way you guys play football on Sundays, or are you kind of expecting the same type of deal, given the fact that majority of the coaching staff has been stayed together?
Well, in my opinion, I feel that there'll be, definitely some of the coach Sean Payton influence, especially when you're looking at the offensive side of the ball. I believe, I don't think the screen game's going to go away. Throwing the screens to Alvin Kamara or Mark Ingram should Kamara, see a suspension of which we're thinking about 6 games. But, and then at the same time, I do expect Pete Carmichael to kind of put his stamp as well. Granted that, we have the receiving core that we're looking at right now with Chris Olave being drafted in the first round, with Michael Thomas's return. Hopefully he'll be returning back to maybe not necessarily his elite form, but as close to it as possible. And then also adding in Jarvis Landry. So, I expect us to kind of throw the ball a little bit more because that seems to be the strength of the offense. Of course, especially in taking advantage of Jameis Winston's ability to throw the ball deep. But at the same time, I don't expect the short passing game to go away entirely.
Right. No, I agree. And so I have a question for you. With Michael Thomas coming back and with the drafting Olave, who's going to play the X receiver? Who's the receiver one? Who do you think is going to be? Where are they going to play Olave if Thomas is on the outside?
So that's a good question too. So I feel that, obviously Thomas will be our wide receiver number 1, right? Number 2, I'm expecting Chris Olave actually to kind of jump in and be that role, because we are going to be looking at that deep threat type of position with him fulfilling that. And then Jarvis Landry coming in, of course, being in the slot, being underneath. course, you can. The unique thing about Michael Thomas is you can also shift him and move him inside as well when need to be, because he's been a staple of this offense since 2016 when he first was drafted in the second round. So he'll be flexible enough. You can move him inside when need be as well. But ultimately, I look at, we're probably going to be playing more 3 and 4 wide receiver sets than anything else. Maybe certainly I would say more so than in maybe the last couple of years.
Got you. That's interesting. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see that. Who do y'all have playing the tight end position, and or do y'all foresee that being more of a blocking position, or are you going to have a receiving threat as well? I think you got a quarterback there in the tight end position. Ain't that correct?
Yeah, good question there too. So, we have Taysom Hill. At this point, honestly, Taysom Hill's coming off that injury from last year that he suffered, I believe, in the Atlanta game. And so whether he'll be ready for week 1, it's kind of up in the air at this point, or even training camp. But I figured that'll be fulfilled more by, if you want to say tight end by committee, so to speak, kind of like the running back by committee, where you have Juwan Johnson, who, transitioned over from a wide receiver position. He was an undrafted free agent, came over as a wide receiver, transitioned to a tight end last year. And if memory serves me correctly, he had 2 touchdowns in that Green Bay game last year. We played him in Jacksonville. And then I believe he followed that up, I want to say 2 games later. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was against New England. But he followed up with another touchdown. And so when I'm looking at, the tight end position, and then we do have Lucas Kroll coming as an undrafted free agent. We'll see if he makes it through training camp and makes the team. But ultimately, I believe, we'll be able to essentially fulfill that position as based on what we need at that point in time, whether we're going to be blocking a little bit more. That'd be Adam Troutman. We can't forget him as well. He was drafted in the 3rd round. The Saints actually moved up to get him 2 seasons ago, and this would be going into his 3rd year. So, he was a little bit of a disappointment last year, certainly. He had a lot of drop balls, a lot of mental errors. So we're hoping with this 3rd season that he'll be able to kind of break out. So between and overall fulfilling the tight end role, I look at there's probably going to be at least 3 players that's going to kind of fulfill maybe Troutman more of the blocker, but although he probably has the highest upside to be able to, block, receive as well. Juwan Johnson's more of a receiving tight end, of course, and then Taysom Hill is the X factor at this point. We're all a little excited about what he can bring to the table, especially with that speed. But again, it remains to be seen what his role is going to be. I don't necessarily feel that he's going to fulfill his position only as a tight end. He'll probably have a little bit more of that H-back role. He'll probably, get some wide receiver looks as well. So we'll just have to wait and see in that sense.
It sounds like the New Orleans Saints like to get players out of position for the tight end position.
Yeah, you can say that.
That's interesting. So you guys are getting Winston back. I'm sorry about that. You guys are getting Winston back. Last year, it didn't seem like going into the season that the New Orleans Saints were too high on Winston. He did play solid going into the year prior to his injury to his leg. At the end of the season, he wasn't picked up by the Saints right away. It took some time. In fact, the Saints, had the dates with Deshaun Watson, so to speak. How confident do you feel that the Saints are in Jameis Winston, knowing that they were, he wasn't their first pick, so to speak. The first pick obviously being Deshaun Watson at the time.
Yeah. So with Winston, so if you want to know my personal opinion, I'm actually glad the Watson sweepstakes fell through for us. It was reported that in the end.
I think everybody involved in that situation.
Yeah, especially when he got that kind of money guaranteed from the Browns. That was outrageous. Wow.
For sure.
But it was reported that toward the end there, before the Browns stepped in and just made his an offer he couldn't refuse. It was reported that the Saints and the Falcons were kind of running, and the Browns were actually out. But yeah, I'm thankful the Saints didn't get in. And in all honesty, I really didn't want them to really pursue him, as seriously as they did in the first place. Although I did like the idea in the process of them pursuing him, or what seemed like they were pursuing him, they were able to clear up a lot of cap space, which allowed us to be able to bring in some, weapons and get Winston some weapons on offense, because our offense wasn't very pleasant to watch last year. Let's just say. So it had its moments, but yeah, we're overall, I'd say we're a little excited to have Winston back, especially with the weapons that he has around him. Because last year, with the receivers that he kind of had to make, you know, lemonade out of lemons. That's really what he was doing at that point.
So there was a major drop off after Winston went down. Who did y'all have one quarterback, or did y'all have like a rotation after Winston went down?
So when he went down, we actually ended up playing 3 other quarterbacks because we kept dealing with injuries. So last year we started a total of 4 quarterbacks, and when you look at the injuries we dealt with overall, we had an NFL record. I believe it was 58 different starters due to injuries or due to COVID, right? And so once Winston went down, actually Trevor Siemian came in. You may remember him from the Broncos, right? Well, he came in, and it was against the Tampa Bay game that he got injured, and he came in and won a game for us. And then he proceeded to lose 5 consecutive games. And, I mean, he was close a couple of times. I remember the knock on him was once we got to the fourth quarter was when he turned it on. But the 3 other quarters, it was, well, we couldn't. We were struggling to move the ball, struggling with continuity. And once we got to the fourth quarter, man, we were mounting that comeback, and we came close a few times, especially against the Falcons, but we couldn't pull it off. And then once Simeon got injured, or not got pulled, I should say, Taysom Hill came in, and then of course the game against Miami, due to the whole COVID situation, we had to start Ian Book, our rookie, and he was thrown to the wolves. It was a terrible position for him to be in.
So I'm sure then the hype is pretty great for Jameis Winston going into it. But yeah, that sounds like the Steelers last year. We were pretty sad to watch for the first 3 quarters at the end of the season. In the beginning of the season, it was quite the opposite. We would mount the lead in the first half and then allow the team to come back in the fourth, and then it just kind of like turned around somewhere in the middle there, where the Steelers weren't doing anything until the fourth quarter. So I know your frustration when it comes to that. With Jameis Winston, what kind of contract did they give him? Did they give him a contract that's a prove-it contract, or is this a contract that they're going to believe in him and they're going to invest in him for the future?
So, in my opinion, it's a little bit of both. Those, like, for instance, that if they were looking for long term, I feel like that it's more of a prove it deal, because they signed him to a 2-year contract, but it's really more like a 1-year deal. That way, like, for instance, let's say if he doesn't perform up to expectations, or maybe he gets injured again, then they could just pretty much walk away from him, not really have to pay too much. But I would say it's definitely not a long-term commitment for sure. It feels more of like a prove it, but we do believe in you. So we pay you a little money this year and with some escalators, and then, show us what you got. And then I think they'll be more than willing to extend him maybe to a 3 or 5-year deal, depending on how he performs this year. Because I can tell you, I believe for the most part, when I'm thinking in terms of the Saints, that most of us tend to think that with his leadership, had we had him the entire year, we'd have been a playoff team regardless. So with the weapons he has now, we definitely feel we'll be a playoff team this year.
Sounds good. And so with the other teams in the NFC South, who do you guys think that is or who do you think is the biggest, rivalry / toughest opponent in the division?
Okay, so that's kind of a trick question. So biggest rivalry will always be the Atlanta Falcons for the New Orleans Saints. That's just, that rivalry dates back to, they came in the league in '66, we came in 67, and we kind of both proceeded to suck together for the longest time. So, it was like, well, who's king of the South, right? Or who's the suckiest team of the South? So for the longest time. So that rivalry dates back. Me personally, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really share in that hatred for the Falcons like most Saints fans do. My hatred tends to be more towards the 49ers from the 80s and 90s from, when I first started watching football. So my rivalry is kind of dated back to then. However, the biggest, opponent, so to speak, in the South, obviously would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ever since Brady came on board. Although for us, outside of that playoff game that we had where Drew was a bit injured and Jared Cook had his mishaps, that the Bucs really haven't been posed much of a problem to the Saints. They've been more of just maybe a speed bump, if you want to say that. I know a lot of Bucs fans are probably not going to like that comment, but hey, you know what? At the end of the day, they're not really on our radar until they prove to us that they can make this a rivalry. Right now, it's a committed rivalry with the 49ers, or with the Falcons, that is.
Yeah, I doubt there's any Buccaneer fans in the chat room or anything. But what do you think that it is that the New Orleans Saints do that really gives a lot of trouble to the Buccaneers? I mean, y'all won last year, or the Saints won last year against them. I believe they were basically using their fourth string quarterback at that time, and you and I had a conversation here at the house, and you were saying that they had like a punt's chance of winning that game, and then they go ahead and do. What is it to do? What is it? How is it that they're able to control the quote unquote GOAT Tom Brady? What is it that they do?
Well, so from me just as a fan, I'm not an X's and O's guy necessarily, although I did play the game, at different levels. But when I look at, what they're able to do and what they have been able to do when they play against the Bucs with Tom Brady as a quarterback, is they've been able to get pressure on him. And it's not just pressure, say fourth quarter or third down. It's consistent pressure throughout the game. I'm talking all four quarters, right? And then it can really turn it on in the end, especially if they have a lead. And when you look at even in a playoff game, they were able to get some pressure on him. It's just that those turnovers started mounting, and it just really put that Saints offense in a bind and the defense in a bind, especially when you get into turning the ball over in short fields. So having the ability to get pressure, now that's great, especially if you can get to him, because Brady's not the kind of guy who's going to hang on to the ball. Like, he likes to get rid of the ball. I think I read a statistic or heard a statistic last season. He got rid of the ball. I want to say had the quickest release of any quarterback, or second quickest, something of that nature, maybe 2-point-something seconds, and he balls out, right? So, but on the back end, you also have to have the defensive players, the defensive secondary, to be able to cover those receivers, because let's be realistic here. Tampa does not have, just another guy at receivers. Like, they have dynamic receivers and dynamic weapons. And, and plus they have a running back in Leonard Fournette, who you're, a little bit familiar with. But he's able to catch the ball out of the backfield too. So the one thing the Saints have been able to do is they've had dynamic players to go along with that pass rush on the defensive side and the secondary, and even at the linebacker level, to be able to cover those backs and receivers out of the backfield, to kind of blanket them. And, when you look at Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore, that's the matchup that us Saints fans love watching, because, that every time it's just an ongoing battle when those guys get on the field. And we love seeing that, because good cornerback play in New Orleans hasn't really gone together a whole lot over the years. We've had our spurts here and there, but not so much overall in our history.
Right. So you would say that the strength of your defense would probably be the upfront guys, in the defensive line, the edge rushers? I
would say that so if we're looking at defensive ends, we have a lot of depth there. When you look at Marcus Davenport, of course, the idea is if he can stay healthy for a full season. I think he played 10 games, I want to say, last year, and had 9.5 sacks. But the issue has been him coming out of, he's native to San Antonio, UTSA. The issue is just him staying on the field. But when he's on the field, he's a monster. And so him paired with Cameron Jordan, they make an excellent dynamic duo. Then to back them up, you have Tana Passanio that came over from Kansas City last season. He actually was leading the team in sacks before he got injured. And then backing him up also is Carl Granderson, who is an undrafted free agent that came over as well. And then you have in the middle, of course, you have David Onyemata. And we have a lot of depth at the defensive tackle position in terms of run stuffers, that is. And like Shai Tuttle, I believe we have Malcolm Roach. So we have a few of those guys. But really, our depth is at the defensive end position. That's really where, and in fact, this offseason, we actually nabbed Taco Charlton when you guys let him go. So we nabbed him. So I don't expect him to necessarily be part of the rotation. Maybe we might be able to. I honestly don't know if he's going to be able to make the squad because we also had drafted Peyton Turner last year in the first round. So we have a lot of depth there. And then I would say on the back end, our strength is in our corners as well because we do have a lot of depth at the corner position too, and in overall secondary.
Nice. Yeah, the Steelers offense, probably their weakest dynamic on the offense. And a lot of folks are going to point at the quarterback position since we lost the franchise guy, so to speak. However, and I'm sure you guys knew, watching Drew Brees in his last year as a Saints quarterback, we kind of went through the same thing watching Ben Roethlisberger in his last year as a quarterback, where the ball was coming out short and fast, and there was no ability to throw down the field unless the decision to throw down the field was made either at the snap or right before. It was one of those high cut 50-50 ball. And other than that, short down, everything intermediate. And so, we had to deal with that. A lot of the media guys, they'll just look at, all right, the Steelers lost a franchise guy. They lost a franchise quarterback. They got Mitch Trubisky and a rookie quarterback. They're gonna win less than 8 games. I feel that, our offense, even though that may be the situation, I don't think that our quarterback situation is our weakest. I think it's going to be in the up front. Our offensive line has been weak for the last couple of years. Ben Roethlisberger has been the fastest quarterback to get the ball out of his hand in front of Brady for the last 2 years at almost under 2 seconds. Last year it was like 2.0 something. It was crazy how fast he was getting the ball out. But he had to because the offensive line was just so poor. And so I'm kind of concerned when you speak about your defensive line and you speak about the defense and the fact that they're able to stuff the run. Now, the game that, in fact, you and I will be attending this game. The game that the Steelers and the Saints play is going to be in Pittsburgh. It's in November. How confident are you in the Saints playing in the elements outdoors in November? How do you feel about that?
Okay, so I know in years past that it was kind of the knock on Drew Brees every time he got on the elements. The Saints offense looked ordinary, the team in general. Except for I'd say over the last his last 4 years from 2017, 18, 19, and 20, well, even 21. So last 5 years, that started to change a bit. Although the media seemed to, and a lot of fans were still pushing that narrative, the Saints were not as good outdoors, when in fact I believe we have one of the best outside records, away records of most teams, especially over the last 5 years. So, but moving forward, now that we have Jameis Winston at quarterback, it'd be interesting. I'm pretty confident in terms of us being able to play outside because of the type of offense that we've morphed into, more of a running attack in the previous years. But again, I feel the strength of the offense will probably be more so through the air this year, just because of the types of weapons that they were able to surround Winston with. So knowing that, it's going to be pretty tough to really say exactly. I know, and unfortunately, we had such a small sample size with Jameis Winston last year. In fact, most of our games were away just because we had, I think it was Hurricane Ida that had hit New Orleans. And so, it was like a month before we played our first game in the Superdome. And guess who that was against? Oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we had a lot of away games, even that Jacksonville game, which was considered a home game, was still in Jacksonville, right? So judging from that small sample size, he seemed to play okay. We did have one real serious debacle in Carolina. Of course, we had COVID, and a lot of assistant coaches on the offensive side of the ball was out. So that's kind of the outlier game that kind of threw us off a bit. But if I was just to kind of look at the glass half full, so to speak, I feel confident in that we can perform as a team well, just because I'm looking at we have a defense that we can bring to the table. Whereas a defense, even if your offense tends to struggle a little bit in the elements, as long as you have a defense, that defense can travel pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's exciting. It'll be good to watch. I saw the last matchup between the Saints and the Steelers live and in New Orleans, and it didn't go well for us. And this year, the tide may turn the other way, so to speak. And so we're getting a little bit long here in the tooth on this episode here, there, Kris. So what I want to do is what I leave out with every one of my guests is I would like a record prediction from you on your Saints. Where do you think they're going to land? And also give me a way too early prediction on the Steelers versus Saints game. What do you think who do you think is going to win that game? And then let everybody know where they can find you.
Okay, all right. So record-wise, I haven't quite looked at the schedule and really kind of put a lot of thought into it, but just off the top of my head, I feel that I'll give you like a ceiling and a floor. Floor-wise, I feel that we would be no worse than we were last year. The Saints be no worse than 9-8, floor-wise. I think ceiling-wise, they have the potential to still, get a few more games in there, get a few more wins. So potentially, I think they can still eke out 12 to 13 wins. Of course, obviously, with a little luck and with catching teams at the right time, that certainly helps. But I believe they'll fall somewhere in between that double-digit scenario. Now, as far as a way too early prediction, so again, I haven't looked at this really see. But if I was to just take a stab at it, I'd say, okay, I could see the Saints, and of course I'm gonna be a homer on this one, but I could see the Saints pulling out a victory in Pittsburgh, something to the nature of say 24-17. I know the last time the Saints actually lost to the Steelers was in 2006, and that game was played in Pittsburgh, so it's been a while.
Sure has.
And then where they can follow me, so I'm just kind of getting started here. Looking forward to kind of, putting out podcasts on my own and to further this thing along to see, where I can go with this. But they can follow me at Who Dat Saints Nation on YouTube, of course. I'm going to start putting some content out there. And then also at Who Dat Saints Nation at NOLA Saints Ranch on Twitter. So, again, I'll be putting content out there, getting started. So, looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. You did a great job tonight. For everybody who isn't aware, this is actually Chris's first time on the channel, and he sounded like a vet. So I applaud you. Thank you for coming on. Of course, my record prediction or my way too early prediction for that game goes a little bit different. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers take that game in a 28-17 battle out there in the cold.
Ooh.
So we'll be there. It'll be interesting to see. One of us will not be leaving Acrisure Stadium happy. And so, with that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. That's Kris Hendrix from Who Dat Saints Nation podcast. This is State of the Steelers. Peace.